today's talk about is how a group of Indian techies are looking to do good around the world. Hello, everyone. Today, I have with me a distinguished IT guy, Suresh Shenoy, IIT, and so on. And in his retirement, he, along with some of his friends and colleagues, is doing philanthropic work all over the world, I think, with a focus on India. Anyhow, let's let Suresh tell us what he's doing and where he's going with it. So over to you, Suresh.
Thank you, Subodh. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. It's an important service that you're providing by allowing people such as us to sort of express our views and opinions on our activities. I was president of Pan IIT North America in 2006 to 2008. And I also was very deeply involved in the IIT, Pan IIT conferences in 2005, 6, 7, etc. And during one of those conferences, President Abdul Kalam, who was our keynote speaker, we had a small meeting with him, and he said, "You guys talk a lot, but you don't do anything." So he said, go and solve the big problems of the world. You got so much brain power and enthusiasm and passion. Why don't you solve the big problems? Except that he didn't tell us what those big problems were. This is back in 2006 in Bombay, actually. And so we called a small meeting, about 15 people. It included several distinguished alumni, faculty members from Carnegie Mellon, and Rajat Gupta was our chairman and continues to be one. And we tried to sort of figure out what are the big problems in the world, which we can focus on. And at that time, we sort of projected that the 6 areas that were of significant challenge, not only to India, but also the United States and perhaps the rest of the world, included access to clean, potable water, water for agriculture, water in general, affordable healthcare and access to healthcare, renewable energy and lowering our dependence on fossil fuels, education, rural livelihoods, and sustainability. And we arrived at these 6 areas based on some mind-boggling statistics. So for example, there are more children who enter the school system in India each year than perhaps the population of Australia and Canada combined.
Yes.
That's how many new children come into the picture. And with almost 65 to 70% of the population in India living in what we call urban areas, that is both rural as well as those cities, third-tier cities, which have all the attributes of a village, but by population, by any definition, they are like a big city.
Okay.
So I've been giving you some example like Sholapur or, even places like Darjeeling and others. They have huge population, but they don't have the same kind of medical facilities or education facilities that you would find in Calcutta or Bombay or Delhi, etc. So we said we need to sort of figure out how we address these problems. And we feel somewhat redeemed by the fact that 17 years later, almost, the United Nations adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. There were several elements in it, including climate change, etc. But the key ones were the 6 that we had identified back in 2006.
Okay.
So we feel that, that we are doing something right. We are going in the right direction. Then later on, we sat down and we said, what is it that we do, that can be a differentiator from where there are a lot of heroes in this world. There are people that we know, literally hundreds of thousands of people who are doing phenomenal work in villages, or, Mother Teresa is someone that everybody knows. But how do you duplicate or replicate what she is doing? You cannot create another Mother Teresa, if you will. She can be very inspirational, but, it's not easily replicable and it's not easy to scale that. So we said, being engineers, our contribution should be something that is focused on technology. So if we can focus on the technologies that help to scale philanthropic efforts in these 6 areas, then we can say we've had some impact.
Okay.
That was the first thing. Okay. The second important element was we are not funders per se. We are not, we don't write a check to someone to go do something. Okay, so we feel that it is important for us to contribute in other ways. In that sense, the Indian thinking, the Indian philosophy of tan, man, or dhan, which loosely translates to time, talent, and treasure, is the essence of philanthropy. And most people feel, comfortable in just writing a check or giving money and say, "Apna kaam to ho gaya. I have done what I needed to do. I have done some philanthropic work."
So
But
you want to be doers, right? You want to be doers.
That's right. That's right. So, tan or man, which time and talent are the more difficult parts of any philanthropic efforts. It's very easy for us to raise money, but it's very difficult to find someone like you, for example, who has got such deep insights into education, into economics, to come and help us do an impact study, for example, or to see where the most cost benefit is and so on. So time and talent are the most difficult parts of a philanthropic effort. So that's where we want to focus on. The other thing is that there are lots of people, and some of them you have interviewed on your program, who are wealthy enough to do their own thing. They have large foundations, hundreds of millions of dollars and these are, many of them are IIT alumni, and they are doing a phenomenal job of whatever they do. Okay. But there are a lot of people, a vast majority of people, who cannot give hundreds of millions of dollars, but want to give $1,000 or $500 or even $25. Okay. And they want to give back, but they can't give back with impact. So what we decided to do is create Wheels Global Foundation as a means by which individuals with not large amounts of money, but enough to sort of do something small in their own way, but in a collective sort of an environment where the impact can be felt.
Okay, Suresh, let me just interrupt to tell the audience that WHEELS is an acronym for the 6 subjects: water, health, electricity, education, livelihoods, and sustainability. That's why they call it WHEELS.
Yeah, energy as well.
Energy, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
No, thank you. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
So, so we are trying to focus on these 3 things: time, talent, and treasure, and allow them to sort. And we do this by creating communities of common interest. So we have created councils for each of the 6 verticals. So we have a water council. We have about 100 and some odd people there. There's an energy council. There's a health council, and so on. And these are not necessarily IIT alumni alone. There's anybody and everybody who's interested in that subject and has something to contribute in terms of time and talent. And what we are finding is that there's a plethora of ideas, of initiatives that most people are even unaware of. Okay. And what we find our biggest value add as a philanthropic organization is to connect the dots. So you may know that I was also chairman of the local Red Cross in the Greater Washington area, and I learned a lot of lessons on during my term there. And I broadly divide philanthropists into 4 categories. There are people who give, okay, and there are people who take. There are a lot of people who take. Okay, so there are givers and there are takers. And then there are a lot of people who are doers. They actually roll up their sleeves and do things, okay, and do some things really, very well. And then finally, there are enablers. And enablers are those people who have a very strong network of expertise, network of people with time and talent and treasure too. And our job is extremely, can go very viral, okay? So I think that the IIT network, which includes some 400,000 alumni who are spread out throughout the world, in every corner of the world, has got a significant sort of a treasure trove of experience, expertise, and reach. Okay, if each IITian has a circle of 10 friends, that's 4 million people that we have access to. And when we look at that Rolodex, it is absolutely amazing. Okay. So I think that the greatest value add that Wheels brings to the table is that ability to connect the dots and bring the right expertise to the table. Money follows. When the cause is good, the money follows. So I would like to share some of the things that we have done.
Okay, but
It would
Suresh,
be,
I just want to clarify before you do that. The
Yeah.
Wheels is not an official IIT institution, but it taps into all of the people who are associated with IIT and also people who are not from IIT, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I just wanted to be clear that it is not an IIT activity, but
Absolutely.
it is driven mainly by IIT people, but they are smart enough to know that there are others outside who can
Yeah.
also be included. So it's not parochial in the sense, oh, you are not from IIT, how can we have you? You can have people who are from
Absolutely.
anywhere. Right.
Oh,
Okay,
a
good.
very good example of that is that, sorry, in 2017, we had a gala in New York, sort of a fundraiser. And there was a gentleman by the name of Chirag Patel, who is the founder of Amneal Pharmaceuticals. And he's not an IIT guy. He went to college here in the US. He came to this country at a very young age. And he and his brother Chintu Patel started Amneal Pharmaceuticals, which is today the third largest generic drug manufacturer in the world, okay, with plants in the US, China, India, etc. After he heard our story, he and his wife chose to give us a grant of $10 million to do research in water technologies and also to do some research in health and health of women and children in India primarily. So we formed a joint venture called the Wheels India Nishworth Foundation, which was his foundation. And we got some space at IIT Gandhinagar, and we started using some of his grant money to do research in how to do both consumer and industrial level, water purification technologies. And today we have, a couple of patents. There are research projects going on at various IITs that the WIN Foundation is funding primarily from his grant. Okay, so there's a classic example where a non-IIT alumnus was inspired to do something, and he found a vehicle of engaging IIT alumni and the IITs. So it is not an official program of the IITs.
Yeah.
But having said that, almost every IIT now has a department that focuses on application of technologies in rural areas. So IIT Bombay has something called Sitara, Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Applications. Delhi has got a CRDT, and Kanpur has one. Everybody has a small group where young engineers, aspiring engineers, get together and figure out how technologies can be applied in a rural setting.
Okay, let's see what you have been doing.
So a couple of things. So most importantly, we feel that any philanthropic effort, okay, needs to have there should be some economic interest in the local community to make it sustainable. If it is a pure charity, you go and set up a water plant and then walk away from it, it's going to die within 36 to 48 months. Nobody takes care of it. But if there's someone making money out of it somehow, then there is a potential for them to sort of keep that, maintain it, and make sure that that becomes a sustainable venture. So as we started doing things, we felt that we need to share these concepts with a broader audience and put a wrapper around it. Okay. Again, in terms of philanthropy, what I have seen is most people are very sporadic, givers. So you see a homeless person, you give a $5 check or whatever, and you feel happy that you helped him out in some fashion. So that's sporadic giving. And then there are episodic givings. When I was at the Red Cross during the hurricane in Haiti and Katrina and others, we got millions of dollars. People gave $1, $5, and we collected millions of dollars to help people who are impacted by the hurricane. But if there are no hurricanes, the Red Cross goes hungry. Okay, in the sense that people are inspired to give when they see human what do you call, misery caused by natural disasters. So that's what I call episodic giving. And then there is programmatic giving, where you put a wrapper around it and you say, okay, $100 a contribution will help one child get educated for 1 year or so. That's a programmatic giving, and you put a wrapper around it. And then there is institutional giving, corporate social responsibility. There are people like the Gates Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation. They help through institutional giving. And finally, there's planned giving, people who put their favorite charity in their wills, if you will. So I'm going to give you a little bit of example of each of these areas. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is programmatic giving. Okay, so we set up a computer lab in a very impoverished area of Gujarat called Aravalli, very tribal. And it cost about $25,000 to $50,000 to set up this computer lab, get the licenses, etc. And we got help from IEEE and other donors for that particular purpose. A whole program around a computer-based education system. We did a small project in Hyderabad where we wanted to experiment with manufacturing sanitary napkins for high school children. Again, it was the passion of one individual who was a doctor and whose daughter was going to college in Pennsylvania, and they gave us about $5,000 to $8,000 to do this experimental, thing. That's again a program that has now expanded, by the way, into other areas. We've done several reverse osmosis plants, and again, here is where we learned the lesson that for $5,000 or $5,000 to $10,000, you can set up a clean water plant, but since there was no economic interest around it, after about 18 months to 36 months, they started to go away. So now what we did was we said, okay, we'll create jobs where people can actually sell this water for 5 rupees a liter or 5 rupees for 10 liters or whatever it was, so that there is, and they go and actually deliver the water to homes. And then there's a program here called Sevaks. And you can see here, there's an old picture of Prime Minister Modi with the Thakur Patel, who's a doctor who lives here in this area. And he runs the Sevak program. And for about $3,000, we can train these Sevaks for a particular village. And Wheels equips them with certain basic technology to collect medical information and take their blood samples for diabetes treatment and so on and so forth. So that's a classic example of programmatic, and there are others that, let me see. Okay, there are other similar examples. I won't go through each one of them, which allow you to sort of, donate money for specific causes. Here's one that we did together with the Rotary Club in Jodhpur during COVID. Again, this particular sewing machine workshop was donated by a donation of $5,000, where about 6 or 8 women were able to sit down and manufacture these masks, and there was ample training, and that project continues even to this day.
Okay.
And then here's one of the more successful ones that we take a lot of pride in. These village women are from a very remote area called Chenchu in Andhra Pradesh. And they would walk 15 kilometers each day to pick up these huge leaves that they weave into plates and saucers and all that, bowls and things like that. So we gave them a truck. And you'll see here, Wheels Global Foundation, it's called RDT on Wheels. RDT is a local NGO, Rural Development Trust. And we got them a driver who takes the truck to the forest, picks the leaves and brings it back. And then we gave them this equipment and built a 2,000 square foot shelter, which now belongs to these women. And they started to get some, finish put to it, package it, and ship it to the markets. In fact, I even saw some of these plates show up in Indian stores here in Virginia. And they sell for $9.99 for 10 plates, which are biodegradable, etc. Makes me very proud that this project is actually doing some good, creating jobs, sustainable with local talent. And for a relatively small donation, I think it was about $20,000 or whatever.
Okay. It's very good.
So there are lots of examples. This is the telemedicine operations during COVID. We put 320 of these. Each one costs only about $3,000, I think. And, it allows them to get a computer. The doctors mostly volunteer their time. These people intake the patients. They do online diagnostics, and they prescribe medications. So these are just some examples how technology helps to scale this kind of philosophy.
So what you're doing really, as I see it, is that your money is enabling the locals to do better for themselves.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you aren't really doing it. You are saying, listen, you do it for yourself. We are here to help you, to facilitate you, and
Right.
to enable you, because that's the only way it can be sustainable. Like you come and you said you built the water treatment plant, it died. But if you give them okay, you can do it better for yourself. That's a great philosophy and operational method to have. What's the future that you see?
Well, we took on a very ambitious goal of impacting 20% of India's urban population in the next 5 to 7 years, and by 2030. And that's a very ambitious number, because when you say 20% of India's rural population, if you consider the rural population is about 800 million to 900 million people, you're talking about impacting 180 million people.
Right.
That's a huge number.
Right.
And it's not easily done. And this is where the rub is, because how do you calculate impact? So I'll give you one example. We did a demonstration project in Himachal Pradesh, which should be, by all accounts, a water-rich state, but they were running out of water, potable water. And it was happening because most of the aquifers were being drained out. And so we did a project where we took geospatial data, got it analyzed by some students and professors at IIT Roorkee, and we figured out that the development that was occurring along these water beds, if you will, aquifers, were destroying trees and vegetation nearby and diverting the glacial melt and rainwater to streams which were far down, far away from the villages, and were not able to pump that water back to the villages. And the government was thinking of spending literally crores of rupees to do that. So we said, no, there are easier, solutions. So we created what our program manager is Gauri Kumar, who is an IAS officer, not an IIT person, but very passionate about this subject, to sort of lead the project. And we created something called the Collaborative Governance Platform. Okay, essentially a web portal where multiple departments from the government, including development officers, forestry officers, and all that, can look at data and sort of figure out how to solve this problem of replenishing, water. Now, within one monsoon, we were able to solve the problem at 3 locations, 3 aquifers, okay, along which there must have been about 20 or 30 villages, okay. So the government was very impressed that by planting trees and vegetation, within 1 year, we were able to solve the problem at 3. So they said, can you do 10? So we did another 7, okay, and then it went to 15. And our total expense so far was about $50,000 or $55,000. And the government said, this is so good. We did a presentation to the chief economic advisor in India, and they have adopted that as a statewide plan, and the state is implementing 500 more similar projects within the state. Okay, now how do you calculate impact, right? So the anecdotal way of doing it is, okay, there are 10 villages along these 3 streams, okay, 3 aquifers. The first one, each village has an average population of say 5,000. So you got 50,000 people who have been impacted. Okay, now if you multiply that 10 times for the 10 streams that we did, then 500,000 people have been impacted. Now, is that an acceptable form of measuring impact? And the answer is probably no, because we haven't done any real surveys to find out. Now these surveys cost a lot of money, okay, to do it. And we got some quotations, etc., how to do it. We even thought about hiring students. And we have statistical information that we need to sort of demonstrate impact. So therein lies the rub. How do you measure impact? And I have had conversations with a lot of individuals and organizations that are doing phenomenal work, and they just don't have a good answer to
Okay.
this. Okay, so that's an area where we could do with some help.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a very impressive set of activities that you have described. And I hope people will help you, and maybe we can find some ways to get people involved in it. But I agree with you that impact is very hard to measure. It is not a simple matter at all methodologically. And if you cut short on the methodology, then it's not worth doing it anyway. Right. So it's a very complex and difficult method. But let's leave it at that. Suresh, thank you so much for this very, very useful and informative talk. This is really, I'm glad that President Kalam's got you guys going, and he did a lot of good things, and this is one of them. So let's stop here, and maybe we'll have other people from Wheels come and talk about what they are actually doing now that you have given the overview. And I look forward to that. But for the moment, let's say bye to our viewers. So bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Subodh. Thanks. Great job. Keep it up. Thank you.